I just won the $1 billion lottery. I was about to scream with joy, when a chill instantly froze it, the weightlessness of falling, the venomous cruelty in my stepmom Samantha's eyes, my dad Arthur lying in a pool of blood, chest pierced, like it happened yesterday. I've really been reborn, back to 1 month before the zombie virus outbreak, back to when that poisoned woman still wore a gentle mask, the days when she had my dad wrapped around her little finger, last life. When the apocalypse hit, the little supplies my dad and I scrimped and saved to stockpile became a stepping stone for Samantha. That gut-wrenching pain and bone-deep hatred, still burning in my chest right now, I snapped back to reality, my back already drenched in cold sweat. Through the living room French windows, I saw Samantha bringing Dad a bowl of chicken soup with that sweet fake smile. Anyone who didn't know would think she's so sweet and caring, but I know all too well what greedy thoughts lurk under that gentle mask. 1 billion, this is a lifeline from heaven, my only shot at turning things around and getting revenge. I forced myself to calm down, my mind raced, last life, whether we hid in a neighborhood or deep in the mountains. We couldn't escape being overrun in the end. The land is no longer a safe place. The only way out is the ocean. I need to buy a super yacht and convert it into a sea fortress that can defend, attack, and store supplies to protect my dad and me. I can count on one hand the people I trust in this world. My dad's old comrade Marcus and his son Caleb are my only choice. Caleb is my childhood sweetheart. He's always done whatever I said since we were kids. And Marcus and Dad are brothers who've been through thick and thin, solid. My hands trembling, I dialed Caleb's number. I was talking so fast I was almost shaking. I spilled everything. The rebirth, the apocalypse, Samantha's plot. And I stressed that he and Marcus had to meet right away, as this is about all our lives. And I hung up. And I ripped up the lottery winning certificate. Then I rushed into the bathroom and flushed it down the drain. I can't let Samantha get even a whiff of this, or we'll never have a chance to turn things around. In the afternoon, I said I needed to go shopping, and met Caleb and Marcus at a quiet tea house. I laid out every detail of the catastrophe from my past life, from the horrors of the virus outbreak to Samantha's evil deeds. I held nothing back. Caleb was stunned, his eyes wide with shock, but without a shred of doubt. After a moment of silence, he nodded solemnly. This unconditional trust is more valuable than any supplies in the apocalypse. Marcus frowned and finished an entire cigarette. He slammed the table hard and said he'd trust me all the way. Just tell me what to do. I took out the simple plan I had drawn up in advance and voiced the idea of buying a yacht and turning it into a fortress. Marcus made the decision on the spot. He was willing to use all his family assets to stock up on supplies and weapons. Caleb also volunteered for the technical work, promising to turn the yacht into an impregnable fortress. The three of us reached a consensus and agreed to act separately. We kept it strictly confidential and didn't breathe a word. When I got home, the scene in the living room made me sneer inwardly. Samantha was leaning close to Dad, pretending to care while flipping through the family ledger, but I could see the scheming in her eyes. I knew she was about to start transferring assets. In my past life, that's how she bled the family dry, and finally abandoned us. She sweet-talked Dad into nodding along, and even turned to ask for my opinion. I suppressed my anger, and acted like I didn't care. It's not time to show my cards yet. I need to wait until I gather enough evidence to ruin her reputation, and then kick her out for good, and make her pay for what she did in my past life. Late at night, I lay in bed, gripping a fruit knife in my hand. The cold blade kept me alert. The tragedy of my past life won't repeat itself. In this life, I will use this $1 billion to fortify every line of defense, and do everything to protect Dad, and make Samantha pay in blood. There is only 1 month until the apocalypse. Time is tight. Every step must be steady and ruthless. There can be no mistakes. It was the 3rd day after my rebirth. I asked a trusted friend to find a reliable private investigator. I paid him top dollar to tail Samantha 24/7 and monitor her every move. Sure enough, within just 3 days, the investigator came back with crucial intel. Samantha had already teamed up with some stranger, selling off several of Dad's antique paintings at a low price. She also secretly handled the paperwork for the empty apartment downtown, and the buyer was that guy's relative. I kept all the evidence safe, without exposing her right away. To deal with someone as good at faking as Samantha, you need to land one fatal blow. No chance for her to argue or fight back. At dinner, I pretended to have a sudden whim and suggested to Dad that we cash out all our assets to buy a yacht and sail around the world. I knew this proposal would definitely hit a nerve with Samantha. As expected, Samantha's eyes lit up instantly. She put down her chopsticks and chimed in. I could see right through the scheming behind that enthusiasm. She didn't really want to travel the world, but just wanted to grab more assets. Dad was a bit puzzled by my sudden idea, but with our tag team persuasion, he finally gave in. He even started putting together a list of assets. Seeing Dad kept in the dark like that, I felt both furious and heartbroken. I just silently swore to speed things up. I couldn't let Samantha's scheme succeed. Meanwhile, Caleb had made progress too. He narrowed it down to 3 super yachts that fit our needs. He took Marcus and me to the port to check them out. The first 2 were too small. They couldn't store enough supplies, or their hulls weren't strong enough. They couldn't withstand zombie attacks. We turned them down without a second thought. Then we saw the third 5-deck yacht. All 3 of us were impressed. We were hooked immediately. The yacht had a broad hull with plenty of storage space below, enough for all our supplies. The top deck was huge and could double as a defense and lookout platform. Moreover, the hull was made of high-strength steel. It was way beyond what we expected. It was perfect for conversion into a sea fortress. Caleb knocked on the hull, inspected it thoroughly, and gave us the green light. He said he'd call the tech team right away to reinforce the hull first, then install a full defense system. He promised to turn it into a safe, combat-ready base. Marcus also promised to rustle up funds right away. He would use his connections to secure channels. We needed to buy weapons and fuel in advance. Once the apocalypse hits, money won't help, so we must prepare early. On the way back, I got another call from the investigator. He said Samantha was frantically checking on the asset liquidation. She'd even secretly linked Dad's bank card to her phone. She was desperate to get her hands on the cash. A cold smile curled my lips. The fish had taken the bait. Now we just wait to reel it in. But watching the darkening sky outside, I couldn't shake off a feeling of unease. Just over 20 days left till the apocalypse. Yacht conversion, getting supplies, gathering evidence, everything was urgent. Could we really get everything done before the outbreak? I didn't dare think about it. I gritted my teeth and told myself, I have to get it done. To get a full picture of the family's assets, and to land the final blow on Samantha. I claimed I needed to calculate the yacht refit costs exactly, and asked Dad to take inventory of all core assets, including deposits, antiques, and real estate. Not a single detail could be missed. At the same time, I deliberately left Samantha's property transfer contract for the empty house accidentally by Dad's bedroom door. Dad picked up the contract and looked at it for a while, his face turning pale and then red. His lips pressed tightly together, but he still stubbornly defended Samantha, saying it might be a misunderstanding, and that maybe someone forced her to sign. I saw the doubt and disbelief in Dad's eyes, so I didn't push it. Instead, I took the chance to suggest a family dinner that evening, and invited Samantha too, so we could clear things up. At the dinner, Samantha dressed up all sweet and charming, and as soon as she sat down, she started playing the victim. She deliberately created the illusion that I had it out for her, and that she just wanted a quiet life. She even tried to cry for sympathy, and finally proposed handing all the family assets over to her, trying to get full control of the money. Watching her pathetic act, I felt nothing but disgust. The time was ripe. It was time to reveal her true colors. I took out my phone and played the recording from the PI. It clearly recorded the conversation between Samantha and the stranger, every word plotting to steal the assets and leave Dad and me to fend for ourselves when the apocalypse hits. Then, I laid out the calligraphy transaction records and property transfer certificates on the table. The evidence was ironclad, leaving no room for her to deny it. Samantha's face went pale, panic in her eyes, stammering, unable to form a complete sentence. She still tried to argue that she was framed, but Dad looked at all the evidence before him, thought of his late wife, and slammed the table hard with reddened eyes. His pent-up anger and disappointment finally exploded. He pointed at Samantha and yelled at her to pack her stuff and get out, cutting all ties, never wanting to see her again. With her mask completely torn off, Samantha dropped the act. She glared at me, eyes full of venom, clearly hating me for ruining her plans. She scurried to her room, threw some things in a bag, and left that night. Watching her figure disappear into the night, I breathed a sigh of relief, but I wasn't at ease at all. I know Samantha too well. She's petty and vindictive, and she won't let this go easily. We need to be even more careful in the days ahead. Samantha really wouldn't give up. The next morning, she showed up at the door first thing, crying and yelling, demanding to see Dad. She even tried to force her way into the house. She kept trying to make a scene and harass us. Luckily, Marcus was prepared and came over early to stand guard. He blocked her right at the door. Marcus, all authority, warned her coldly. If she dared to cause trouble again, he would expose her asset transfers and schemes against the Lin family. He'd make sure she had no place left in the city. Samantha was intimidated by Marcus's presence. Her face turned pale. She muttered a few curses under her breath. In the end, she didn't dare to cause more trouble and slunk away. With Samantha taken care of for now, the 4 of us officially formed a survival squad. We divided the work and threw ourselves into preparing for the apocalypse. I was in charge of overall coordination, drafting detailed plans for yacht modifications and supply lists. I listed every scarce resource I remembered from my past life. From food, meds, and daily necessities to tools and equipment, nothing was left out. Caleb focused on technology. He contacted a professional team to reinforce the hull and install a defense system and underwater monitoring equipment, ensuring the yacht's safety. Marcus, on the other hand, used his connections and assets. He purchased weapons, fuel, and meds. These are the hard currency for survival in the apocalypse. We gotta stock up plenty in advance. Dad is handling all the asset liquidation. He's converting stocks, real estate, everything into cash and supplies. This will fund our preparations. I specifically told Caleb to install the anti-impact hull and water cannon. I saw how destructive zombies were in my past life. Ordinary defenses are utterly useless. We gotta make it foolproof. Caleb noted everything down. He also said he'd install an infrared alarm and panoramic surveillance. This will make the yacht impregnable, so we won't have to worry about security. Dad ran into a lot of trouble liquidating assets. Some stocks suddenly hit the daily limit, so they're hard to sell for now. He was so anxious he got blisters in his mouth. He reached out to his old comrades for help. After several days of running around, he finally liquidated all assets. He raised a large sum of funds. Seeing the new white hairs on Dad's temples, it broke my heart. In my past life, I was so immature and made him suffer so much. This life, it's my turn to protect him. Only 20 days left until the virus outbreak. Everyone is up to their ears in work. There's hardly any time to rest. I check the supply list over and over every day. Caleb stays at the port, supervising the yacht modification. Marcus is running around coordinating resources. Dad is busy arranging trucks to transport supplies. Seeing everyone working together to survive, I feel a lot more at ease. But occasionally I think of Samantha's venomous glare when she left, and I can't help feeling a little uneasy. I just feel like she'll come back to cause trouble. The yacht's refit is at a critical stage. Caleb and his tech team have been working day and night. They've practically been living at the port, never letting up. I head to the port every other day to check on progress. Every time I go, there's something new. This time, when I got there, the hull had been reinforced with 2 thick layers of steel plates. All the windows had been replaced with bulletproof material. No more worrying about damage from zombie attacks. On the deck, workers were installing the autocannon and water cannon. Caleb said they made some special upgrades to the water cannon. It can be mixed with pepper spray. It'll work even better against zombies. The lower cabin was converted into a sealed storage room and a medical bay. The ventilation and waterproofing are top-notch. The storage room is zoned into different areas. That way, sorting supplies later will be a breeze. They're still adding equipment to the medical bay. Basic diagnostic tools and first aid supplies are already in place. Good enough for the usual scrapes and injuries in the apocalypse. Marcus's preparations are also going smoothly. He got a lot of firearms, ammo, and riot gear through special channels. He also stocked up on diesel and gasoline to last us over a year. They are stored for now in a hidden warehouse at the port, under guard to keep them safe. Dad, meanwhile, lined up several suppliers. He bulk purchased compressed biscuits, canned goods, rice, flour, oil, and other staples, and all kinds of seasonings. The warehouse was stuffed to the brim. Just looking at it puts my mind at ease. I was in charge of getting meds and daily necessities. To avoid suspicion, I said it was for company benefits. I bought tons of antibiotics, painkillers, bandages, all kinds of meds. Also toilet paper, sanitary pads, warm clothes, essential items. At checkout, the store owner teased me, asking if I was opening a supermarket. I just laughed it off. Didn't dare let on at all. That night, when I came out of the warehouse after checking supplies, it was already pitch dark. As I walked through a quiet alley, I felt like someone was following me. That creepy feeling of being watched made me tense up. I picked up my pace without letting it show, took advantage of a blind corner, and whirled around. I vaguely saw a familiar figure duck away. It was Samantha. My heart clenched. Of course, it was her. She's still not giving up. Looks like she's trying to figure out where we stashed our supplies, waiting to steal them. I didn't confront her. I pretended not to see. Kept walking. Only after I left the alley did I pull out my phone to call Caleb. Told him to install more cameras and infrared alarms around the yacht and the warehouse right away, and have 2 people take shifts guarding. We need to be fully prepared. After hanging up, I gazed at the pitch black sky. My eyes turned cold. If Samantha dares to cause trouble again, I won't go easy on her. In this life, I will never let anyone sabotage our survival plan. 10 days to the outbreak. The yacht refit is basically complete. All facilities have been tested. Just need to load the supplies onto the yacht and make the final preparations. We started moving supplies in batches. Caleb and Dad handled inventory and registration, storing food, meds, and weapons in different cabins. We also put in climate control in the storage room to keep supplies from getting damp and spoiling. I checked each cabin one by one to ensure defense, water, power, and comms were all working. Caleb added a water desalinator and solar panels. Even if the fuel runs out, we can still meet basic water and power needs. That solves the two biggest problems of surviving at sea. Exhausted but determined, he told me. This way, we can stay at sea for years, no problem. While Dad was sorting supplies, he found I'd set aside a box of kids' meds and warm clothes. He was puzzled and asked why. I thought of the innocent kids suffering in the apocalypse from my past life. My heart clenched. I told Dad that kids have it worst in the apocalypse. If we come across any surviving kids, we'll help them as much as we can. This kindness is to make up for regrets from my past life, and to hold on to the last shred of humanity in the apocalypse. Both Marcus and Caleb were touched by my words. Marcus immediately decided to set aside even more supplies. He said, no matter how brutal the apocalypse, we can't lose our conscience, so let's stock up more. We can help the reliable survivors we come across. We all know how cruel survival in the apocalypse is, but none of us want to lose our humanity completely. This understanding brings us closer together. But our kindness didn't earn us any peace. That night, Caleb spotted something off on the surveillance. Samantha's been lurking around the port lately. She's acting suspicious. She also contacted some shady characters. They huddled in a corner, whispering secretively. It's obvious. She's after our yacht and the supplies. She wants to ambush us before we leave, and steal everything we need to survive. We immediately tightened security. Marcus handed out weapons to everyone. He patiently taught me and Dad how to handle guns. From grip to aim and shooting, he walked us through every step. Caleb upgraded the alarm system, expanding its range. As soon as anyone gets within 100 meters of the yacht, the cockpit alarm goes off. Night fell, and the port went quiet. Danger lurked in the shadows. Just 3 days till the virus hits. The city looks calm, but tensions brewing underneath. You could feel the unease in the air. Late night, we four were still on the yacht, doing final prep. Stock check, gear calibration couldn't afford a slip. Then, the yacht's infrared alarm screamed. Ripping through the night silence, Caleb dashed to the cockpit and pulled up the feed. The screen showed it clearly, Samantha leading 4 big guys sneaking over the harbor fence, heading straight for the yacht. Every one of them had crowbars or something. They were up to no good. But we were ready. Marcus gripped his gun, hawk-eyed, locked and loaded. Dad and I hid by the cabin door, weapons tight. We held our breath, waiting. Caleb stayed in the cockpit, ready to hit the defense system. Soon, heavy footsteps echoed. The men with crowbars tried to pry open the hatch. It rattled from the force. Just as they were about to break through, Marcus charged out first, using his old special forces training to drop 2 of them in seconds. Dad didn't back down either, using his army training to lock horns with one of them. Samantha saw it go south, knew the plan was blown. She spun around and tried to bolt, but I'd already set an ambush at the stern, cutting her off. Pale and trembling, she still tried to bluff and throw threats. Fear and venom filled her eyes. I just looked at her. Nothing. In my past life, what she did to me and Dad was 100 times more vicious than this. I warned her cold. If she caused any more trouble, I'd hand her to the cops and make her pay for everything. Samantha knew I meant it. Scared out of her wits, didn't dare stay a second longer. She scrambled out of the harbor. The remaining 2 saw their accomplices flee and lost their nerve. Marcus took them down quick. We called harbor security and handed the guys over. Crisis over. After that, we tightened up. We moved the yacht to the most hidden spot overnight, killed all the lights, and waited to set sail. Under the city's calm, the apocalypse's shadow crept closer. Next morning, TV news reported something disturbing. Unknown attacks occurred in multiple places. The victims turned extremely aggressive, and anyone they bit would show the same symptoms. The report was sketchy, trying to keep the public calm, but I knew for sure that the zombie virus had already started spreading. The apocalypse countdown was in its final stage. I immediately called Marcus, Caleb, and Dad, telling them to drop everything and rush to the port to board the yacht. No time to waste. As Dad stepped onto the yacht, standing on the deck, looking at the familiar city skyline, his eyes were complex, filled with reluctance. This was where he'd lived his whole life, with too many memories. Now he had to run for his life. He felt relief to be free of Samantha and attachment to his homeland, as well as worry about the impending catastrophe. Marcus patted Dad on the shoulder and reassured him with his eyes, saying that as long as they were alive, there was hope, and when the apocalypse was over, they would come back together. While Caleb did one last check on all the yacht's equipment, confirming the engine, defense system, and comms were all good. He handed me a pistol and walked me through how to use it, insisting I keep it on me at all times for protection. While it wasn't fully dark yet, Marcus taught Dad and me how to shoot, right there on the deck. This was a must-have skill for surviving the apocalypse. He kept saying that when dealing with zombies, you have to aim for the head. Only by destroying the brain can you stop them for good. Unless it's absolutely necessary, don't fire recklessly. Gunshots will draw more zombies and put us in deadly danger. Dad and I practiced over and over until we got the hang of it, and then took a break. Night fell, and the city erupted into chaos. In the distance, roars and screams echoed, one after another, shattering the usual peace. Zombies started showing up at the port too. Their movements were stiff, staggering toward people, a horrifying sight. Without hesitation, I gave the order to set sail. Caleb fired up the engine, and the yacht slowly pulled away from the port, heading out to the deep sea. As the city skyline faded, I knew we had only escaped danger for now. We all sighed with relief as the yacht left the harbor. We collapsed onto the deck. No one spoke. The air was heavy. Watching the city disappear, my feelings were mixed. That place held our laughter, our memories, but now it had turned into a living hell, ravaged by zombies. I leaned on the railing and told Caleb to head to the eastern waters. In my past life, I'd heard the eastern waters had more supplies and fewer zombies, a relatively safe zone in the apocalypse. Midway through our journey, we heard distant cries for help, desperate, urgent voices. We looked toward the sound and saw a small boat packed with survivors. They were waving their arms, begging for our help. Fear and despair written on their faces. Soft-hearted Dad saw this and immediately said, "Stop the yacht, let them on," saying, "Their lives, and we can't ignore them." But I stopped Dad, feeling helpless inside. I told him that space is limited, and we can't take that many, and more importantly, we don't know if any are infected, so what if a zombie is among them? We would all be in danger. And countless bloody lessons from my past life taught us that in the apocalypse, you can't trust strangers. Marcus agreed, saying survival is brutal, and we have to ensure our own safety first. Before anything else, Dad argued and insisted on saving them, but then a chaotic scream came from the small boat. We looked. A survivor suddenly lashed out, biting the person next to him wildly. Clearly infected, turned zombie. Chaos erupted on the small boat instantly. Some were pushed into the sea in fear, while others fought back but got bitten. Complete mess. Soon, the boat lost balance and completely capsized. Only faint cries and growls on the surface, then silence. We fell silent, and Dad's face was pale, with his head down, staying silent, full of guilt and helplessness. I knew he felt awful, but this is the truth. Survival of the fittest. Only the strong survive, no room for mercy. Caleb patted my shoulder, eyes firm, silently comforting me. I looked at the three beside me, and couldn't help feeling down. This was just the beginning. The yacht cruised into open waters. Just when we thought we'd get a moment of peace, Caleb suddenly yelled, panic in his voice. He pointed at the radar screen, and said multiple targets were detected, heading right for us. We sprinted to the bridge. Staring at the red dots on the screen, my heart sank, a bad feeling washing over me. As the targets drew nearer, Caleb zoomed in on the screen. Everyone gasped, too stunned to say a word. The moving targets were zombies floating on the water. Their bodies had mutated. Webs had grown between their fingers and toes. Their limbs paddled at weird angles in the water. They weren't fast, but they had a creepy, relentless determination, slowly closing in on the yacht. No one expected zombies could evolve to survive in the ocean. We thought the ocean was a safe haven in the apocalypse, keeping us away from the zombies. But now, this one safe zone isn't safe anymore. Panic gripped everyone instantly. No time to think. We had to jump into action. I yelled at Caleb to fire up the water cannon, and told Marcus to get ready to shoot. Marcus grabbed his gun, aimed at the approaching zombies, and fired. Bullets tore through zombie heads. Dark green fluid gushed out, splashing onto the water and reeking. But there were too many zombies. One went down, and another took its place. We couldn't kill them all no matter how hard we tried. Caleb quickly adjusted the yacht's course. He tried to avoid the horde. He also fired up the water cannon. A powerful water jet shot toward the zombies, sending many of them flying, slowing their approach for a while. I asked Dad to help reinforce the railing and check the defenses. I grabbed an iron rod. I stood at the edge of the deck to keep zombies from climbing on board. A few zombies, using the waves, climbed onto the hull. They scratched the deck with sharp claws. It made a screeching sound that sent chills down our spines. Caleb and I worked together like a well-oiled machine. He sliced off a zombie's arm with a knife. I took the chance and smashed its head with the rod. We knocked them off into the sea, one by one. After half an hour of brutal fighting, we finally got rid of this pack of mutant zombies. The yacht sped away from the zombie horde, but looking at the calm sea, I felt a knot in my stomach. The zombies are evolving. We'll face even more terrifying dangers ahead. After shaking off those mutated zombies, we didn't dare let our guard down. We split up to clean the battlefield. Dad and I scrubbed the deck clean of stains and zombie gunk. The smell was sickening, but we had to push through it. Caleb crouched by the railing checking for damage. He quickly found a few scratches. Nothing serious, but if left, could cause problems later. He grabbed tools and patched them up right away. He was quick and skilled. Dad's frown deepened as he checked the supplies. His voice was heavy with worry. That fight used up a lot of ammo. Restocking is going to be tough. I stared at the sea, lost in thought. A memory from my past life came back to me. there was an abandoned rig out in these waters. Back in the early days of the apocalypse, people found fuel there. I immediately told everyone about it. I suggested we go check it out. Maybe we can score some fuel and other supplies. Marcus nodded immediately. He volunteered to lead the way onto the rig. After all, he's a former special forces guy. He's better with emergencies. The yacht sped to the rig, and once there, Marcus and Caleb put on protective gear. Armed, they boarded the rig to check it out. Dad and I stayed on the yacht on lookout. We watched the rig closely. After about 10 minutes, Marcus came over the radio. He said there was still fuel on the rig, but a few zombies inside. My heart sank. Luckily, we heard gunshots soon after. Then Caleb's voice came through, reporting they were safe. They worked together smoothly and cleared the zombies. They loaded the fuel into the containers they brought and ferried it back to the yacht. Surprisingly enough, they also found boxes of unexpired compressed biscuits in the storage room. That was a nice bonus. Seeing the fuel and supplies replenished, we breathed a little easier. At least we won't run out of fuel anytime soon. But the ammo shortage still needed a quick fix. The yacht kept sailing on course. The sea looked calm, but danger was lurking beneath. Suddenly, a series of heavy thuds hit the hull. The vibrations got stronger. I rushed to the deck to check. A school of jet black fish was ramming the boat. Some poisonous ones even jumped onto the deck. Wherever they touched, small holes corroded instantly. A pungent smell filled the air. I recognized them right away. They were mutated fish contaminated by the virus. Extremely toxic. One touch, and it'd be disastrous. I yelled for everyone to stay away from the edge. At the same time, I told Caleb to turn on the water cannon. Caleb quickly worked the controls. A powerful jet of water shot at the fish, trying to drive them off. Marcus grabbed the Molotov cocktails we'd prepared, lit one and tossed it into the swarm. Flames exploded on the water, killing a ton of toxic fish. A layer of dead fish floated on the surface. In the chaos, one stray toxic fish leaped right next to Dad's foot. It scraped his arm. The wound instantly turned red and black. The toxin spread visibly. My heart dropped. My mind went blank. Fighting panic, I yanked Dad over, got out the antidote meds to treat his wound. Lucky we had plenty of meds prepared. After emergency treatment, Dad's wound stopped getting worse. His color returned, and he was fine. From then on, we were more cautious. Caleb installed fine protective netting around the yacht overnight to prevent another attack from mutant creatures. I marked these dangerous waters on the chart, kept reminding everyone to avoid them. Looking at Dad's arm, I silently vowed to be more careful. Never let anyone close to me get hurt again. The yacht's fresh water is running low. If we don't get more soon, we'll be in a real water crisis. Thanks to my past life memories, I recall an uninhabited island not far from here. It has a natural spring with clear, drinkable water, so I suggested we head there to stock up on water. To be safe, Marcus and Caleb took the dinghy ahead to scout. After confirming there were no zombies, we came ashore. The island was lush, the air fresh, a world away from the zombie-infested mainland. Going by what I recalled, we found the spring in no time. We were all thrilled the water was sweet and clear. We grabbed our containers and started collecting. Dad and Marcus stayed near the spring to set up camp, clearing a safe zone. Caleb was fixing the comms gear, trying to pick up any outside signals. Meanwhile, I grabbed some tools and headed into the woods, looking for edible wild berries and greens to stock up on food. The woods were thick with grass and bushes. I carefully pushed through, picking the berries I knew. Just then, a set of footprints caught my eye. The prints had sharp edges and weird shapes. They didn't look human, or like they were from any animal I knew. They were huge too, clearly nothing friendly. I tensed up and didn't dare go deeper. I hightailed it back the way I came. I told the others about the prints. Everyone turned serious. The easy vibe vanished. No telling what creature was hiding out there. We had to call off deeper exploration for now, and fortify the camp and stay on guard. We couldn't let our guard down in the apocalypse. The unknown is always the deadliest. So after finding out there might be danger on the island, we set up warning traps around our base right away. We buried explosives, strung up warning lines, and made thorough defensive preparations. Everyone kept their weapons ready and took turns standing guard, not daring to slack off for even a second. That night, low growls came from the woods, accompanied by the rustling of leaves, getting closer. We immediately gathered, braced ourselves, and got ready to fight. Luckily, the growling eventually faded away, and the night passed without incident. The next morning, we got up to check, and found the traps completely trashed. There were a few silver scales left on the ground. Those scales were hard and sharp, with a metallic sheen on the edges. They felt cool to the touch. I figured they were left by the unknown creature from last night. Most likely some kind of mutated creature. It's gotta be tough. We needed to assess the threat, so we decided to venture deeper into the woods to investigate. Pushing through the thick vegetation deep in the forest, we finally laid eyes on them, a group of giant, scaly beasts, covered in silver scales with lizard-like heads. They stared at us with sharp, piercing eyes. Though they looked extremely aggressive, they didn't attack us. They just kept their guard up. Seeing this, Marcus instinctively raised his gun to scare them off. I stopped him right away. I noticed that the scaled creatures had obvious wounds on them, with traces of viral infection still visible. I figured they were victims of the virus too, not monsters that wanted to hurt us. We remained at a standoff with them for a while. Maybe sensing we meant no harm, the scaled creatures slowly turned around and disappeared into the depths of the forest. We let out a sigh of relief for now, but we knew the island wasn't safe. Watching where the scaled creatures went, I suddenly got an idea. Instead of being wary of each other, why not try to form a symbiotic relationship with them? In this apocalypse, more help means better odds. These scaled creatures are strong. If we could team up, it would definitely boost our chances. I told everyone my idea. Marcus and Dad were hesitant, but Caleb was on board and wanted to try with me. I took Caleb deep into the woods to gather herbs that reduce inflammation and pain. Back at base, we boiled them into a salve. Then we took the salve back to the woods and found the scaled creatures. They were still super wary at first, backing off when they saw us. I slowly set down the salve to show we weren't a threat. After a long while, the most injured one cautiously came over and sniffed the salve. It seemed to sense the healing effect and tentatively rubbed its wound on it. Once the salve was applied, it visibly relaxed, and the wariness in its eyes faded. Seeing this, the others came closer too, letting us apply the salve. A few days later, the scaled creatures gradually let down their guard and started bringing us fresh deep-sea fish. I regularly fed them grain scraps, and we slowly built trust. Meanwhile, Caleb also fixed some communication gear and accidentally picked up a faint signal. The signal mentioned several safe zones on the mainland, but the exact locations and conditions weren't clear. When Dad and Marcus found out, they longed even more to get back to the mainland. They talked privately and planned to take the spare speedboat back to scout the mainland, looking for survivors and supplies. Dad and Marcus soon told Caleb and me about their idea to go back to the mainland to scout. I immediately opposed it. The mainland's crawling with zombies now. It's extremely dangerous, and that signal was fuzzy. We can't even be sure the safe zone is real. Going there rashly would be suicide. I can't let them risk their lives. But Marcus wouldn't budge. He said he and Dad are both vets. In times like this, it's their duty to find survivors. And they also want to check on their loved ones. If they could find a safe zone, not only would they have a better place, but all of us could stop drifting at sea and have a stable foothold. Marcus and I argued, neither backing down. The tension was thick. Dad was stuck in the middle, torn. He got my concerns, but he also saw Marcus's point. Just then, Caleb proposed a compromise. Let Dad and Marcus take a small boat to scout the nearby coast. Stay away from inland. Keep it along the coastline. Caleb and I stay on the island. Keep an eye on the base and look after the armored creatures. Check in every day by satellite phone. If there's danger, retreat to the island right away. I was still worried, but I got why Dad and Marcus felt that way. I knew they had made up their minds. Arguing was useless, so I reluctantly agreed. After that, I quickly packed enough supplies, weapons, and meds for them. I warned them about every possible danger. I kept telling them to stay safe. If anything goes wrong, pull out and come back. Don't be a hero. Early the next morning, just at daybreak, Dad and Marcus set off in the dinghy, heading for the mainland coast. Caleb and I stayed on the deserted island, reinforcing the base's defenses, checking traps and weapons, while tending to the scaled creatures each day, maintaining this fragile symbiotic relationship. At the same time, we kept watch by the communication equipment, waiting for news from them. But on the second day after they left, the satellite phone suddenly lost contact. No matter what Caleb tried, the signal wouldn't come back. I was freaking out, countless terrible guesses flooding my mind. I was scared they got jumped by zombies, or ran into some other mutants. Caleb kept trying to calm me down, saying it was probably interference. He told me not to overthink it, but I couldn't shake the worry. I just stared at the comms, praying for the signal to come back. Right when we were losing it over the comms outage, something suddenly stirred by the shore. A loud splashing came closer from afar. We rushed to the beach to check. A swarm of mutated fish, infected by the virus, surged onto the sand, advancing toward our base. Just like the toxic fish that hit our yacht earlier, Caleb and I grabbed our weapons and joined the fight. Caleb triggered the flame traps we'd set. Flames burst up instantly, blocking some fish. I picked off the toxic fish that made it past the flames and got close to base. After a tough battle, we finally took out all the fish. We held the base, but comms were still down. I got even more worried about Dad and Marcus. The dread inside me just kept building. 3 days since the comms went down, Caleb and I wait by the sea every day, our eyes fixed on the mainland, hoping to see Dad and Marcus appear. But the sea's still calm, not a boat in sight. Meanwhile, those scale creatures suddenly got restless, screaming and pacing toward the mainland all day, their eyes filled with vigilance, like their warning of some unknown danger. Seeing them act so weird, my anxiety spiked. I figured something big must have gone down on the mainland. Dad and Marcus were probably in trouble. I couldn't just sit around and wait. I decided right then to have Caleb guard the base and take care of the scale creatures, while I took the boat to scout the mainland coast, looking for Dad and Marcus. Caleb was totally against it. He insisted on coming, no matter what. He said he wouldn't let me go alone, that we should stick together and watch each other's backs. We argued for a while, and finally agreed. Leave some supplies and the scale creatures behind. Lock down the base's defenses. Both of us take the boat to the mainland, and search for Dad and Marcus together. We soon reached the mainland coast. The sight was terrifying. The shore was crawling with zombies, so dense, as far as the eye could see. Even more terrifying, some zombies had grown wings, circling and screeching overhead, hunting for survivors. We stayed on high alert. We carefully docked the boat in a hidden spot. We moved through the rubble, relying on our knowledge of the terrain, trying to find any sign of Dad and Marcus. Caleb and I carefully moved through the ruins, always alert for zombies around us, especially the mutated flying ones. One wrong move and we'll be exposed. Just as our search turned up nothing and anxiety grew, Caleb suddenly spotted a familiar item, Marcus's jacket, lying by a collapsed wall. I rushed over and picked up the jacket, which was stained with blood. My heart sank as I examined it with trembling hands, but thankfully, there were no obvious bite marks. I figured they were just injured, not infected, so I relaxed a little. We followed the trail of blood, which was intermittent, leading us toward an abandoned dock warehouse. After getting closer to the warehouse, we heard faint breathing inside, and zombies moaning and prowling outside. We quietly circled to the back door, carefully cracked it open, and sure enough, saw Dad and Marcus. It turned out that after reaching the coast, they were quickly attacked by mutated zombies, with Marcus getting hurt covering Dad, forcing them to hide in this warehouse, their comms damaged in the chaos, leaving them unable to contact us. I immediately opened the door and told them to hide, while Caleb and I took out the zombies outside. Once inside, I grabbed the meds and tended to Marcus's wounds, which were pretty bad, but luckily not life-threatening, with no bite marks. Caleb busied himself repairing the comms, trying to restore the signal to contact the outside, while also checking the warehouse. Outside, the zombies' moans grew closer, clearly sensing our presence, making it critical for us to evacuate immediately. Just then, Dad pulled a folded map from his pocket and told me they found it in the warehouse. It marked an inland military base, rumored to have many survivors and supplies, making it our best bet for a safe zone. We quickly packed up the supplies and put away the map. Under the cover of night, we slipped out through the back door of the warehouse. We ran toward where the boat was docked. The night was dark. The ruins were crawling with zombies. Roars echoed from all around. We kept low, trying to avoid the hordes, but we still inevitably ran into a large group of zombies. Among them were those mutated zombies that had evolved the ability to fly. They circled overhead, chasing us relentlessly. Marcus was hurt, but he insisted on covering the rear. He gripped his gun tight and took down the pursuing zombies with precision, buying us time to escape. I led the way, directing everyone to avoid the areas dense with zombies, and choosing a relatively safe route. Caleb helped support Marcus, picking up the pace, not daring to stop for a moment. We were just about to reach the boat when a flying zombie suddenly dove down from the sky and lunged at me with incredible speed. I didn't have time to react. I just closed my eyes instinctively. Just then, Caleb threw himself in front of me without a second thought. The zombie slashed his arm badly, and a dark green fluid got on his wound. My heart tightened, a mix of anger and worry. I immediately raised my gun and blew the zombie's head off with one shot. Then, we helped Marcus, dragged the injured Caleb, and desperately scrambled onto the boat. Caleb gritted through the pain and started the engine. The boat quickly pulled away from the shore, heading toward the deserted island. Back on the island, I immediately got out the antidote and anti-inflammatory meds. I treated Caleb's wound. Luckily, the wound wasn't infected with the virus, just a regular scratch. Everyone finally felt relieved. During the rest, we discussed and decided to wait until Caleb and Marcus fully healed, and then head straight to that inland military base to scout it out. With enough meds and good care, Caleb and Marcus's wounds started healing. The wounds on their arms began to scab over. They could move normally again. Meanwhile, we got busy prepping supplies for the base trip. We counted ammo, refilled fresh water, and sorted meds. We filled the boat's storage to the brim, so we'd have enough for the journey. Those scaly creatures seemed to know we were leaving. They hung around our outpost every day, refusing to leave. They even brought us fresh deep-sea fish, and left them at our door, like they were seeing us off. Seeing how gentle they were, I felt so reluctant to leave. After all this time with them, we'd already come to see them as friends. But we needed to find somewhere safer. I could only thank them in my heart for their company and protection. Caleb was busy checking the backup boat and reinforcing the hull, checking the engine and navigation equipment to make sure we'd be safe at sea. He also mounted a few machine guns on the boat to boost its defense. Dad took the map we found and carefully planned the route to the military base, avoiding the dangerous waters and zombie zones we knew, picking the most remote paths we could. The night before we left, we sat around the campfire, the mood heavy but hopeful. I shared fragments of memories from my past life about the base, warning them about the dangers there, like mutant zombie hordes and resource conflicts. Marcus told everyone to stay sharp, watch each other's backs, and not to panic, just follow orders. Next morning, we waved goodbye to the scaly creatures, set sail for the inland continent, starting a new survival journey. The small boat sailed to the river mouth. We abandoned the boat and went ashore. We marched along the riverbank toward the military base. The surroundings were barren. Abandoned vehicles lay overturned on the roadside. Zombie remains were everywhere. The air was thick with the smell of decay. Occasionally, a few zombies wandered around. We worked in silent coordination. We quickly took them out without making a sound. With memories from my past life, I steered clear of an industrial area crawling with zombies. I led everyone along remote paths, minimizing unnecessary confrontations. The paths were overgrown with weeds and well hidden. After about half a day's walk, we came to an abandoned house and heard faint sobbing. We went on high alert. We gripped our weapons and approached the house. After pushing open the door, we saw a small figure huddled in the corner. It was a little girl, maybe 5 or 6. She wore tattered clothes. Her face was covered in dirt and tear streaks. Fear filled her eyes when she saw us, and she timidly shrank back. She whispered, begging us not to hurt her. Dad immediately softened his tone. He gently comforted her. We found out her parents were killed by zombies. She'd been hiding here alone. She hadn't eaten in days. Dad, kind-hearted, saw how pitiful she was and insisted on taking her with us. He said we couldn't leave her alone in this dangerous place. I worried she'd slow us down. She might also bring unknown dangers. But seeing her helpless eyes, I just couldn't bear to leave her to die. So I gave in. We named the little girl Lily, meaning to remember the past and cherish the present. Everyone took turns looking after Lily along the way. We gave her food and water and cleaned her face. Lily was timid but well-behaved. She gradually let her guard down. Occasionally, she would whisper to us. Her presence was like a beam of light. For this grim and brutal journey through the apocalypse, she added a rare bit of warmth. Keep moving forward with Lily, getting closer to base. More zombies along the way, and they're way more evolved. Some zombies are covered in tough, hard shells. Regular bullets just leave a white mark. Can't get through it. All their defense is insane. We don't dare go head-to-head with them. We sneak around them carefully. Marcus, with all his combat experience, had us use the terrain for cover. Target their weak spots, eyes and joints. Those spots aren't armored. That's where we hit them. We moved like a team, picking off the zombies in our way. Slow but steady progress. On the way, using my past life memories, I found a hidden abandoned armory in the mountain. The door was locked tight. We forced it open together. What we saw inside thrilled us. A few rocket launchers and plenty of ammo inside, plus plenty of blast-proof gear. These weapons were our biggest asset for reaching the base. With these, we had a lot more confidence against the mutant zombies. Caleb quickly put together a rocket launcher, took aim at a cluster of mutant zombies nearby, and pulled the trigger without hesitation. The blast was massive, instantly turning the area into a sea of fire. Dozens of zombies were obliterated on the spot. Their tough shells were no match for that explosion. We used the chance to pick up the pace, but we hadn't gotten far when a giant mutant zombie suddenly burst out of the ruins. It was freakishly strong. It could flip abandoned cars like toys. It barreled straight toward us. We were caught in a brutal fight instantly. I stayed calm and studied its moves, and realized its eyes were the only weak point. I yelled to let everyone know. Marcus quickly adjusted the launcher's angle, took aim at its eye. He fired without hesitation, and the shot hit perfectly. The giant mutant zombie let out a blood-curdling roar. It crashed to the ground and lay still. We let out a sigh of relief, caught our breath, then pushed on toward the base. After a long and dangerous trip, we finally reached the military base. The base gate was sealed tight. Tall walls were lined with defensive fortifications. Barbed wire was tangled everywhere. We could make out survivors moving inside the walls. Guards were patrolling, highly alert. The defense facilities here are well established, definitely safer than other places. To avoid being mistaken as an enemy, I told everyone to hide behind the nearby ruins. I approached alone to call out. I told them who we were and why we came. I said we were seeking shelter, and also wanted to learn about safe zones. When the base guards heard that, they immediately aimed at me warily. They observed carefully for a long time. After reporting through the radio, they finally opened the gate and let us in. Inside, everything was orderly, with hundreds of survivors, mostly the elderly, women, and children. The able-bodied formed the guard, in charge of the base's defense. The base commander was a retired officer. When he learned that Dad and Marcus were also veterans, he gave us a very warm welcome. He arranged temporary lodging for us. The commander said supplies were ample, with a solid defense system and medical facilities, so for now, it was safe. But then his tone turned grave. He said the base had recently been hit by frequent mutant attacks, and they took heavy losses. I asked if they had any plans to go to sea. After all, the yacht was our ultimate home. The commander shook his head. He said the ocean was no longer safe either. Lately, many survivors have seen huge dark shapes in the deep sea, moving strangely, suspected to be giant mutant creatures. Their power might far exceed that of the mutant zombies on land. Hearing that, my heart sank. I used to think the ocean was a safe haven, never thought there was such huge danger lurking there too. For now, I had to put aside the idea of going back to the yacht. We'd rest at the base and see how things go. We didn't just sit around at the base. We helped the guard fend off mutant attacks. Caleb put his skills to use, upgrading the base's defense system. He set up early warning systems and traps. He also repaired a few damaged defense weapons. That really boosted the base's defenses and cut down on guard casualties. As for me, I used my past life memories and told the base commander and the guard about the weaknesses and attack patterns of different mutant creatures. I taught them how to deal with different types of mutants, avoid fatal attacks, and fight more effectively. Dad and Marcus trained the young survivors, teaching them basic combat skills and survival know-how. They taught them self-defense, because in the apocalypse, it's the strong who survive. Lily made friends with other kids at the base. She slowly started to get over losing her parents. She had a smile on her face, one we hadn't seen in a while. She played with her friends every day, giving us one less thing to worry about. Life at the base was simple, but it felt warm and lively. For a moment, it let us forget how cruel the apocalypse was. But good times never last. Our peace didn't last long. One day, the base's radar suddenly blared a piercing alarm. The screen showed a huge moving target heading straight for the base. It was way bigger than any mutant creature we'd ever faced. The base commander looked grim and guessed that it might be that deep-sea giant mutant creature the survivors had talked about. It had actually come from the deep sea to land. A deadly crisis was coming. The giant mutant creature is slowly creeping closer. The ground starts trembling faintly. The trembling gets stronger. Panic grips the survivors in the base. Screams and cries fill the air. Chaos. The base commander immediately rallies a defense. He orders me, Marcus, and the others to get the women, children, and elderly to the underground shelter. He and the elite guard will stay behind to fight the giant beast to the death. But I shake my head and turn down the proposal. I tell the base commander, this deep-sea giant thrives in the ocean. Land isn't its strong suit. Plus, it's huge and easy to spot. Rather than retreating in panic, we should use the base's defenses to fight it. If we concentrate our firepower, we might stand a chance. Marcus and Caleb agree. They're willing to stay and fight alongside me. Dad steps up. He leads the other able-bodied survivors to reinforce the base walls and haul ammo and supplies. They complete the final defensive preparations. Caleb quickly calibrates the defensive weapons. He makes sure all the autocannons and rocket launchers are working. Marcus and I split the duties. Marcus commands the guard. I monitor the creature's movements and search for its weak spot. Soon, the giant mutant creature shows up at the base gate. It's massive, like a small mountain. It's covered in thick scales. On its head are two giant eyes. They glow with a cold light. As it gets close, it slams its huge tentacles against the base walls. The sturdy wall crumbles in large chunks. Debris flies everywhere as the guards open fire. Rocket launchers and autocannons rain fire, but they only leave minor scratches on the beast. They can't stop its attack at all. The creature's defense is way tougher than we expected. The giant mutant's attacks are getting more intense. The base defenses are about to collapse. Guards are down, wounded. Screams everywhere. Morale is tanking. I watch, heart pounding with fear. I'm racking my brain. Have I seen this giant mutant creature in my past life? Then it hits me. This deep-sea beast has a fatal weakness, a reverse scale on its head. That's its weakest spot, but it's really well hidden. Normally covered by thick scales, almost impossible to expose. I tell everyone right away. Quick plan, Caleb, adjust the rocket launcher's angle. Aim at its head and wait for the reverse scale to show. Marcus, lead a flank attack with some guards. Draw its attention and slow it down. Dad, cover the evacuation of the wounded and survivors. Keep the elderly and children safe. I'll handle a rocket launcher myself. I'll keep my eyes locked on its head. Wait for the perfect opening. Plan set. Let's move. Marcus charges with the guard, using explosive packs on its limbs, trying to limit its movement. The giant is enraged. It roars deafeningly. It swings tentacles at Marcus and the others. Attention diverted. I grip the rocket launcher tight, staring at its head, unblinking. Can't afford to blink. Finally, as it opens its mouth to roar, the reverse scale on its head flashes into view. It's a different color from the rest, glowing faintly red. Now, I pull the trigger. No hesitation, the rocket hits the reverse scale dead on. It lets out a piercing screech. Its body trembles violently. Its attacks slow down. The assault weakens. The wounded beast got even more savage. It thrashed its tentacles wildly, tearing down the base's buildings. Debris went flying everywhere. Many guards were struck and went down on the spot. But we didn't back down, we struck back with everything we had. Caleb kept firing rockets, hitting its weak spot dead on. Every hit made the beast roar in agony. Its movements got slower and slower. Marcus led the guard charging forward. They strapped explosive charges to its limbs. The blast tore into its limbs. Dark green blood gushed out. It could barely move now. I kept firing the rocket launcher, pounding its weak spot, making the wounds bigger to wear it down. Mid-fight, the beast suddenly opened its mouth. A torrent of black venom spewed out, hitting the ground, instantly eating small holes in the ground. Many guards couldn't dodge and got splashed with venom. They hit the ground unconscious. It was critical. I yelled for everyone to get to safety. I sent someone to fetch antidote meds, to treat the injured guards, and keep casualties down. With sheer grit, we fought the beast for nearly an hour. The beast was losing steam. It moved slower. Its roars got weaker and weaker. Blood kept pouring from its wounds. Finally, it gave out. It crashed to the ground, lifeless. Staring at the fallen beast, we collapsed to the ground, exhausted, battered but overjoyed. We finally overcame this deadly crisis, and saved the base and our surviving comrades. Once the crisis was over, everyone jumped into cleaning the base, treating the injured, clearing rubble, burying the fallen guards, fixing the damaged buildings. The base commander was really grateful to us. She gathered all the survivors and praised us in front of everyone. She also asked us to stay as core guards, to protect this place together. Dad and Marcus were tempted. After all, the base had plenty of supplies, strong defenses, and lots of survivors. No more drifting on the sea. It really felt like a good place to settle down. But I saw things differently. The giant mutant creature didn't appear by accident. It can come from the deep sea to land, which means ocean mutants are already spreading to land. And more, stronger mutants will come. The land isn't completely safe. I always felt that our super yacht fortress was the safest home. Sure, the sea has its dangers, but we can sail freely and avoid risky zones. And the super yacht's defense system has been upgraded many times, enough to handle most threats. Caleb was on my side. He suggested we take the survivors who wanted to come with us to the super yacht and build a sea survival base, away from the conflicts and dangers on land. After talking it over, we decided to go back to the super yacht. When the base commander heard our decision, she was a little disappointed but understood. She prepared tons of supplies, meds, and weapons for us. She also picked 20 skilled survivors, including mechanics, doctors, and farmers. They agreed to come with us to the sea to help build the sea survival base. We brought 20 survivors and sailed back to that deserted island. From a distance, we spotted those scaly creatures lingering by the shore. When they saw our vessel, they swam toward us, all excited and friendly. They kept circling the vessel, like they were welcoming us back. Seeing them filled my heart with warmth. I'm glad they stayed around. We decided to rest on the deserted island for a few days before heading back to the yacht. Caleb led a few survivors with mechanical skills, and gave the yacht and the smaller boats a thorough check. They replaced damaged parts, to make sure all vessels were seaworthy. Dad and Marcus led the other survivors to reinforce the island base, set up temporary shelters, and clear a safe area. Meanwhile, they trained them to use weapons to boost their self-defense. I reorganized the maritime survival plan, allocating the yacht's space efficiently, dividing it into living quarters, storage, medical, and defense compartments, making sure each area did its job. During this time, I noticed some survivors were restless, complaining about how hard the apocalypse was and how unfair the resource distribution was. Some even secretly plotted to seize supplies, trying to disrupt order. After learning this, I immediately gathered all survivors and handled the ones who plotted to steal. I made the survival rules clear. Resources are distributed based on work, more reward. Everyone does their job and follows orders. No hiding weapons or stealing. Violators get expelled. I told them that in this apocalypse, only by working together and supporting each other can we make it. Going solo is suicide. The survivors were intimidated by my attitude and all agreed to follow the rules. Slowly, order was restored. After resting up on that island, we brought the armored creature and 20 survivors back to our yacht fortress. Stepping back onto the yacht, that familiar feeling hit me. Now, this is our real home. Caleb dove into optimizing the yacht's defense system. He installed more autocannons and early warning devices, and placed underwater mines around the yacht, creating a full-on defensive network to stop mutants from sneaking up on us. Dad handled supplies, setting up a detailed inventory, doling out food, meds, and daily necessities, making sure every survivor had the basics, while strictly controlling consumption to avoid waste. Marcus put together a patrol team, picking a few strong survivors handy with weapons, leading them on daily patrols around the yacht, on the lookout for zombies and mutants, keeping the yacht secure. I held regular meetings, checking in on everyone's needs, adjusting the survival plan as needed. Meanwhile, I showed everyone how to spot edible sea creatures and wild greens, explained how to use the water desalinator, helping us be more self-sufficient, cutting our reliance on stored supplies. The armored creature swam around the yacht, becoming our sea guard. Whenever it sensed something wrong, it hissed a warning. With everyone pulling together, the yacht fortress slowly got on track. Everyone did their part and worked as a team, with no fighting or chaos. It became a rare safe haven in the apocalypse, protecting us all. The yacht had been sailing smoothly at sea for days. We got used to life at sea, fishing, planting, fixing gear, standing guard every day. Simple, but peaceful. Caleb and I were together day and night. He always showed up when I needed him most. He silently shared my load, kept me safe. Through one crisis after another, we had each other's back, and our bond grew. That evening, the sunset painted the sea with glitter. Caleb took me to the deck and confessed his feelings. His eyes were sincere and determined. He poured out his heart about how he felt. I looked at him. I was so moved, I said yes without a second thought. When the news spread, Dad and Marcus were happy for us. The other survivors all sent their well wishes. In this cruel apocalypse, this genuine love warmed everyone's heart. Dad saw how happy I was and felt so relieved. He sat with Marcus under the awning, drinking tea and chatting, wondering how lucky we are in this life. In the previous life, we were brutally killed by Samantha. In this life, we not only survived, but we protected each other. We found reliable partners and built a safe home. None of it was easy, but peaceful days never last long. Just when we were lost in happiness and security, the yacht's radar suddenly emitted a piercing alarm, shattering the peace. Caleb rushed to the cockpit, his face grim, and said, "The radar picked up a massive underwater target. It's moving incredibly fast, heading straight for us. Its size is even bigger than that deep-sea giant mutant creature we faced before. It's likely a more powerful mutant creature. A new crisis is upon us." A deep-sea giant mutant creature shot under the yacht and started slamming the hull violently. The yacht shook violently. Items on the deck started falling off. Parts of the cabin were damaged. Seawater poured through the breaches, and things were critical. I calmed down immediately and directed everyone to start emergency measures. Clear division of labor. Everyone did their part to minimize the damage. Caleb grabbed a few mechanics and bolted into the damaged cabin to patch the leaks and shut the intake valves. Meanwhile, they checked the engines and nav equipment to make sure the yacht was still operational. Marcus led the patrol team and fired up all the autocannons and underwater mines. They opened fire on the beast to hold it off and buy time for the repairs. Dad rounded up the survivors to move the elderly, women, and children to the safe cabin on the middle deck. They reinforced the doors to prevent flooding and accidents. I stood in the cockpit, relying on my past life memories to recall information about this giant beast. Meanwhile, I kept an eye on the radar screen, observing its attack patterns and looking for a weakness. The beast's attacks grew fiercer. The yacht's defense system was on the verge of collapse. The underwater mines and autocannons could only temporarily slow it down. They couldn't inflict fatal damage. Seawater kept pouring into the cabin. Repairs couldn't keep up with the damage. The yacht was in danger of capsizing at any moment. I knew we had to find the beast's weakness fast and strike the fatal blow. Otherwise, we'd all end up at the bottom of the ocean. I'm glued to the radar watching the beast's every move. Every time it rams the hull, it surfaces for air. Each breath lasts about 15 seconds, and at that moment its head's fully exposed above water. Plus, I notice there's a patch of soft skin around its eyes, no thick scales there, and the color's different from the rest. That's got to be its weak spot. I share this with everyone right away, and put together a battle plan. Caleb maneuvers the yacht precisely, using the ocean currents to steer the beast into our attack zone, limiting its movement. Marcus takes the patrol team, ready to fight. When the beast surfaces for air, concentrate all firepower on the soft skin around its eyes. Dad keeps organizing survivors to reinforce the cabin, patch the breaches, and minimize flooding. I'll man the rocket launcher, waiting for the perfect moment to deliver the killing blow. The armored creatures join the fight too, circling the beast, scratching it with their sharp scales, distracting it, creating openings for us. Everyone does their part, in perfect sync, following the plan step by step. Caleb maneuvers the yacht with the currents, guiding the beast into the target zone. Everything's going to plan. Everyone's in position, just like we planned. Eyes on the water. Sure enough, the giant beast surfaces for air. Its massive head rises from the water. The soft skin around its eyes is clear as day. Marcus immediately gives the order to fire, and autocannons and guns blast away. A torrent of fire hammers the beast's weak spot. Dark green blood erupts from the wound, painting the sea red. The beast goes mad. It lets out a roar that splits the sky. Flailing its tentacles, it charges frantically at the yacht. It's trying to ram the yacht to get revenge. I grab that split-second chance. I aim the rocket launcher, zeroing in on the wounds around its eyes. And without a second thought, I pull the trigger. The rocket hits home. The beast's roar dies instantly. Its body shakes violently. Slowly, its strength fades, and it sinks. Just when we think the danger is over, and we're about to relax, the beast suddenly launches a desperate counterattack. Mustering all its strength, it extends a giant tentacle. It coils tightly around the yacht's hull, trying to capsize the yacht. The yacht pitches violently, more violent than anything before. Some survivors lose their footing and fall. The breach in the cabin widens. Seawater floods in, and the situation turns critical again. My heart sinks. I yell for everyone to stay calm and keep following the plan. We all know this is the beast's last gasp. If we can break free, we'll be safe for good. Everyone gives their all, throwing themselves into this life or death fight. Facing the beast's final counterattack, we didn't panic one bit. Everyone did their part, giving it everything. I ordered Caleb to fire up the yacht's main engines, full throttle. Trying to break free from the tentacles, the engines roared. The yacht surged forward, matching the beast's strength. Marcus led the patrol, grabbed every last explosive, lit them, and threw them at the tentacles around the hull. The explosives detonated, and the shock loosened the beast's grip a bit. Dark green blood gushed out. Dad led the survivors, reinforcing the cabin's fixtures, blocking the breaches with planks, to keep seawater from flooding in. He tended to those who fell, keeping everyone safe. The scaled creatures went wild, attacking the beast's wounds and tentacles, slashing it with their sharp scales, making its injuries worse, draining its strength. I kept a close eye on the beast's movements, and the moment I saw a tentacle loosen, I told Caleb to gun the engines and break free. After a heart-pounding struggle, the beast's tentacles finally let go of the yacht. Its body gave out and slowly collapsed onto the sea surface, lifeless, sinking to the bottom. We watched the spot where it disappeared, and finally caught our breath. Exhausted, we slumped onto the deck, battered but alive. The yacht was beat up, and we lost some supplies, but luckily, no one got hurt. All in all, we made it. With the crisis resolved, we didn't rest at all. We jumped right into repairing the yacht. Caleb led the mechanics and skilled survivors to carefully inspect the yacht's damage, repair the damaged cabin, replace damaged defense equipment, and relay underwater mines and early warning devices. At the same time, we repaired the engine and navigation equipment to ensure the yacht could sail properly. Dad and the others cleaned up stains, blood, and debris on the deck, took inventory of supplies, and tallied the consumption of ammo, meds, and food. We restocked the low supplies, dried out items soaked by seawater, to minimize losses. Marcus led a patrol, circling the yacht in a small boat, checking for any signs of other mutant creatures. After ensuring the waters were safe, they came back relieved. I stayed in the cabin, calming the scared survivors, especially the elderly and children, patiently reassuring them. I told everyone the crisis was over, to put their minds at ease. At the same time, I treated the wounds of injured survivors and checked on their recovery. I made sure everyone received proper care. Those scaled creatures swam around the yacht, silently guarding us, as if worried we might encounter danger again. After days of relentless effort, the yacht was finally restored to its former state. And after this repair and upgrade, the yacht's defensive capabilities were stronger than before. During this crisis, the survivors supported each other, working together, and no one backed down. Their trust and mutual understanding grew deeper. The team became more united. This unity gives us more confidence to face the unknown dangers of the apocalypse. After repairing the yacht, I led the team to sail for waters packed with supplies. From my past life, I remember there are a few islands near these waters. The islands have edible wild berries, wild greens, and fresh water. Plus, the waters around are full of fish. We might also run into abandoned vessels and grab more supplies. We're gonna stock up here to boost our maritime survival system. Once we arrived, everyone split up. We started gathering supplies. Caleb led a group of survivors, taking a small boat to a nearby island, to find edible wild berries, wild greens, and fresh water. Caleb's team also scouted the island for other resources and dangers. Marcus led a patrol to watch the waters, guarding against zombie and mutant attacks, and keeping the supply team safe. Dad and I led the rest of the survivors to fish at sea, using nets and fishing gear. We gathered a lot of marine life for our food reserves. As we fished, a derelict cargo ship in the distance caught our eye. We grabbed a small boat and boarded it right away. What we saw inside blew us away. The cargo ship had tons of daily necessities, tools, and clothes, as well as lots of unexpired canned food. We quickly got everyone to move all the supplies from the cargo ship to the yacht to restock our reserves. Meanwhile, we found boxes of vegetable seeds in the storeroom, common ones like cabbage, radish, and greens. Those seeds sparked an idea. I decided to build a greenhouse on the top deck to grow veggies and become self-sufficient, cutting our reliance on stored supplies and marine resources, and making our life at sea much more stable. The greenhouse on the yacht's top deck went up fast. We cleared a spot on the top deck, set up a simple greenhouse tent, laid down potting soil, and carefully planted the vegetable seeds we'd gathered. Every day, a few of us would tend to the seeds, watering, fertilizing, adjusting the temp and humidity in the greenhouse. We nurtured these precious signs of life. Before long, the vegetable seeds sprouted. Tiny green shoots broke through the soil. Seeing these vibrant seedlings filled everyone's heart with hope. It wasn't just a few vegetables. It was a symbol of our tenacious survival in the apocalypse. A promise of tomorrow. I led the group to upgrade our maritime survival system. The greenhouse gave us veggies, the water desalinator kept providing fresh water, the powerful defense system kept threats away, and patrols stood guard every day. Everyone had a job. Some planted, some fished, some fixed equipment, and some took care of the sick. We all pitched in for this big family. We worked together, smooth and steady. Caleb and I stood side by side on the deck, looking out at the calm sea, watching everyone busy but at peace, feeling safe. Dad and Marcus sat under the awning, sipping tea, chatting, with relaxed smiles we hadn't seen in a long time. Those armored creatures swam around the yacht, living with us in harmony, and becoming our close friends. The apocalypse wasn't over, and danger could still come at any time, but we had the strength to protect each other and a safe home.